Every Horde night starts with one decision: build your own base or use a pre-built location. Building from scratch gives you XP, more kills and more loot bags, but it does take away time from quests, looting and collecting the magazines that actually advance your progression. If your design has a weak point though, the whole thing collapses, especially in the early game. So consider using strong, tall concrete buildings as pre-built Horde bases. You want to look for three main things. Height, you want at least 2 stories with a roof. Material, if it's wood, skip it. You'll want at least cobblestone or concrete ideally, which has 5000 health. If you can find a POI that's made of steel, even better. And then you want to check if you can cut off every route to the roof. A single ladder or staircase that's easy to remove is ideal. Just remember to nerd pull back up after. Fire stations are usually perfect for this. If your town has one and you're new, start there. I've used this method for entire playthroughs, and later I'll mention why you might want to avoid this strategy. And that's just the first tip about Horde Night that we're going to be covering in today's video. I'm going to be helping you get prepared for your first Horde Night, how to build your first base, and how to actually survive and optimize your Horde Nights. It's mostly going to be focused on the first week, but there are some tips for later Hordes as well. So if you do want to build a base despite what I just said, the next tip covers where to start. Every POI you loot is full of building materials, and is usually faster than harvesting raw resources with weak tools. You want to look for firewood piles in rural houses, and farms for quick wood. For clay and stone, you want to target the tarp-covered pallets and stone brick piles. Some of the pallets actually drop cobblestone, which will skip the crafting and resource harvesting, which is a big time save. Once you unlock Miner 69er and Motherlode, raw harvesting does improve, but you always want to focus on the big trees, the large rock formations, or the underground rock formations, because the smaller ones yield less resources per amount of health you have to break. For clay, you want to try and avoid the green topsoil. It has a little bit extra health that will slow you down. Instead, you can just dig up farms or below the topsoil to get the fastest clay. Okay, so now you know how to get materials quickly. The next biggest time saver is for Horde base building itself. When building a Horde base, you usually collect materials, place frames, and reinforce them with your stone axe or hammer for XP. But if you prefer speed or prefer getting XP from more engaging activities, you can skip reinforcing and craft cobblestone, concrete, or steel blocks directly from your inventory. The downside is less XP from building, but you can make up for it by killing zombies, questing, gathering more materials, things like that. The only other issue is misplacing blocks, which will take longer to fix, so be careful when you're playing with this style. The upside is that it's much faster. You can skip all the gathering prerequisite materials, so instead of collecting thousands of wood, stone, clay, concrete, and then steel, you can just craft the final material needed. So for this first Horde night, you could skip wood and go straight to cobble, which would save you a lot of time. Just remember that it does also take time to craft these passively. Speaking of time, when does Horde Night actually start? Well, it's a good question because it's not as simple as it once was. For most players, it's going to be 10 PM on day 7. Pretty simple. But this tip is actually for more advanced players because as of 3.0, nighttime no longer works the way it has worked for a very long time, and that false sense of security could get you killed. So the default daylight length is 18 hours, which makes night 10 PM to 4 AM. 16 hours of daylight, however, now makes night start at 8 PM, which is not how it used to work. It used to be a static start of 10 PM was always when night started. That meant you would always be trying to get to your Horde base at 10. Now if you change your daylight settings, you're going to have to keep in mind that they are completely all over the place now. It is actually kind of really hard to remember, but here is a chart for knowing when each Horde night will start. This is quite different from how it used to work, which is why it's here. So now that you know when Horde Night starts, you should know what kind of Horde you're going to be going up against and how the game chooses that. Game stage can be found in this tab here, the leaderboard. Game stage increases when you reach a higher level or enter higher tier biomes or the day counter goes up. What it does is decide which zombies will spawn in POIs, wandering hordes, scout hordes, and blood moon hordes. So what are the stages you need to worry about with regards to blood moons? Well, everything is pretty chill until game stage 35, where you'll start seeing spider zombies. At game stage 40, you'll start seeing zombie dogs. At 44, you'll start to see vultures. Bikers start at 49. Cops start at 59. The first feral zombies start at game stage 69. Soldiers at 74. Mutateds at 85. Ranchers very rarely begin spawning at game stage 91. Chucks at 115. Whites start spawning at game stage 121, direwolves at 127, radiated zombies, radiated vultures, and the first infernal zombies, which do bonus damage to blocks and have a lot of health, are at 133, and the big one, demolition zombies and charge zombies, start spawning at game stage 147. Beyond that, it kind of just becomes more and more of the worst zombies. You should keep these rough numbers in mind because things like cops, mutated, ranchers, chucks, and infernals are going to force you to really beef up your horde bases, and demolitions might force you to completely change the strategy your base is using. And if you're not well equipped, I would recommend not doing a horde night outside of the forest biome because that bumps up your game stage really aggressively. So everything so far has been about preparing for the horde, because to be honest, most of your survival will actually come from being prepared rather than moment-to-moment gameplay. This next tip should help you survive in the moment though. Zombies come in very large numbers if you're playing with higher zombie counts in the menu toggles, which a lot of people do because the base amount is pretty boring. This can, however, become quickly overwhelming if you're just using melee weapons, or it can become ammo expensive if you don't have a good gun. So what's the best way to clear large numbers of zombies from your fighting position? Well, you could put a door in and literally drop them, but it's not actually going to kill them. You need explosives. Which ones? Pipe bombs. Pipe bombs cause significant area damage and you can time them easily by watching the wick burn, which is safer than trying to use Molotovs inside your horde base. This can actually let you use them as budget contact grenades. Emphasis on budget. A pipe, 12 gunpowder, and a plant fiber will get you a single pipe bomb. One thing a lot of people don't actually realize early on is that you can actually craft gunpowder without the chemistry station. It just costs twice as much, but it's still definitely worth it early on rather than relying on looted gunpowder alone. And it's not bad damage either. It will definitely fall way off later in the game, but these bad boys are going to be insane damage dealers until about when radiated zombies start to spawn. And they don't do much block damage to your base either, which is nice. However, do not use dynamite for this because it's almost all block damage, and that will quickly ruin your horde base. Speaking of horde bases, let's talk about some essential tips to making a good one. The biggest thing you need on Horde Night is distance. Distance from the ground, distance from the zombies, and distance for the zombies. Why do we need distance from the ground? Well, it's simple. If you're at ground level, you'll be attacked on 4 sides, and have to keep preparing 4 different fighting positions, but if you're elevated, it's just 1. Keeps it simple, keeps it very controllable. We need distance from the zombies for pretty obvious reasons. If they can hit you, you'll die, so you need to have room to move out of their hits and put something between you and them. Then for their distance, this means giving the zombies a decent amount of time to run towards to you, also known as bridges. You need to give them time to run up or they'll just swarm your fighting position all at once and they'll break through it much faster. You want to make them run single file as much as possible to that fighting position so that you can take them 1v1 as much as possible. But these base designs do have a significant flaw. A flaw I'll show you how to work around in the next tip. These single fighting positions are great for killing zombies and keeping stuff from hitting you, but they do take a lot of damage over the course of Horde Night, which is why it's absolutely imperative that you don't just set and forget your defenses. It's important to remember that you can continuously repair blocks in front of you whenever they get damaged significantly, or you have time to breathe. A couple of broken blocks and this design isn't even really a base anymore. To keep it repaired, you need to keep basic resources like say cobblestone in your inventory, and always have your repair tool like a stone axe on your hotbar and repair it just like you build by right clicking it. It's much easier to repair an almost broken block than it is to replace a broken block while zombies are trying to crawl their way through that space. But if your horde base does fail, you should make sure that you use this next tip so that it's not the end of the world. Put your important shit inside a decently defended house and then come out to a separate horde base and do your horde night there. Stick a bedroll on the roof or something with a box of extra ammo and stuff, and if the base fails, you spawn nearby with the necessary equipment. But even if you get caught in a death loop and the horde goes absolutely horribly wrong and you just die over and over again, your useful stuff to rebuild next time is fine and safe in a building the zombies have no interest in. It also helps keep the build predictable, cheap and efficient. All these extra rooms in the back just cost you way more building materials when there's houses lying around anyway, and they give the zombies more things to get confused about and stuck on and hit and break. Keep it simple. If you're new, just use a horde base rather than a combined base. Now this video is focused on early hordes, and this next tip should help you get some advanced stuff for your day 7 or maybe day 14 horde if you're lucky, but if you do, it will make them laughably easy. The thing that gets you killed on horde nights 9 times out of 10, even with a good base, is how fast zombies can get to you. If they get to you too quickly, they build up and damage your base, get through and kill you. It's why we even need a base to begin with. You need electric fences. Those require level 25 in traps, and you'll need level 25 in electrician to even craft and use them, which is actually doable by day 7 if you know what you're doing, but there is an easier way if you're lucky. Traders as early as level 1 can sell both generators and electric fences. It's honestly not too expensive to get yourself a basic setup here. It's like 2,000 dukes, which is very obtainable by day 7. The only issue is that traders won't always sell them. Check the science tab, which is this icon, whenever the trader restocks, and keep an eye out for generators and electric fences. Get yourself an engine and some gas and build a wire tool and place your electric fence on the bridge like this, and make sure the fence that receives the electrical current is inside your base, like on this one. Then it'll electrify zombies all night long. And you want the receiving end to be inside your base so you can repair it. It does require electrical parts and forged iron. Before we jump into that last tip, I just want to let you know that this is part of a larger series we're working towards, where I create a mega video with over 70 tips for new players in 7 Days to Die. And I'm going to be putting out a part of that project every week for the next month or so. So if you want to stay up to date on each entry that comes out, the next one being a list of the most important mid-game tips and optimizations, stuff for when you know how to survive the first week with ease, but you want to know how to get the best setup for yourself in the end game. Well, the best thing to do would be to hit that subscribe button so that you're notified when it comes out. We're trying to hit 100k by the end of the year, and you guys got me 1,000 subscribers in just the last few days, which is insane. So yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, the final tip brings us back to the first tip. If you remember from the first tip, I asked you to consider whether or not to build a base, and hopefully this gives you the final bit of info you need to make that choice moving into the rest of the game. Zombies, when they die, have a chance to drop loot bags. The higher your horde night game stage, the more of these red loot bags you get, and the more insane loot you will get. For this reason, you have 2 things you probably want to do more of. Kill as many zombies as you possibly can rather than trying to simply survive, and try to build your horde base in the hardest biome possible to get the highest game stage for more red loot bags and better loot in those loot bags. Now I know what you're thinking, didn't I just tell you not to build a base and to just survive and stay in the forest? Yes, that's why this is the last tip. This is an advanced strategy, and you should use the earlier tips when you're first starting out. But once you become an advanced enough player, you'll want to optimize your base and biome for the best loot possible. It's all about risk versus reward though. The loot is of no use to you if your base gets folded because you can't handle a wasteland horde night. So take everything I said in this video into account, and you should be equipped for not just your first couple of horde nights, but you'll know where to go as the game goes on, which is the theme of the next video. Knowing where to go once you know the first week like the back of your hand. And when it's out, it'll be popping up on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.